Daf Yomi, Higi Azeman, Daf Yomi, Daf Yomi, Daf Yomi, Higi Azman, Daf Yomi. Daf Yomi, Tractate Avodah Zarah, page 13, starting from the bottom of 12b, with the Gemara, with the words Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Lo ishtanon v'torois b'vered v'adas. Tikol mehat mirecha, aval mi'utorois b'feirois mutorois. My taimo, d'Amalcho, Lo yidbak b'yotchem yoma min acherem, nehena hu de'aso. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says, they taught that buying is prohibited only in the case of stores that are adorned with roses and myrtle, as one derives benefit from their smell, and they serve as offerings to objects of idol worship. But with regard to stores that are adorned with fruit, it is permitted to buy from them. What is the reason that they are permitted? As the verse states, and there shall cleave nothing dedicated to your hand, Deuteronomy 13:18, meaning the items dedicated to idol worship. From here, it is derived that it is prohibited to derive benefit from idol worship. And now we turn to 13a, which is the page of today. The top of the page, 13a, Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, Aval Mehena Shari, but it is permitted to cause benefit. Rabbi Yochanan Amal, Afilu Meitaros Beferes Nami Asur Kal V'Chomer Nehena Asur Mehena L'Kol Shchein. Although by buying from the store one indirectly supports idol worship, as a portion of the sales are given to idol worship, this is not prohibited by Torah law. And Rabbi Yochanan says, even if the stores are adorned with only fruit, one is also prohibited from buying from them. This is derived by a Kal V'Chomer, an a fortiori inference. If it is prohibited to derive benefit from idol worship, is it not all the more so prohibited to cause benefit to idol worship? I'm not sure what the Kal V'Chomer is. I don't know that causing benefit to idol worship is more than personal. But it would seem that the Chomer is the personal benefit. But maybe he's saying that the Chomer is to give them benefit? I'm not sure. Okay. Meisvei, Rabbi Nosson Omer, Yom Shevoy Zarah, Minachat bo esameches, Nachrizim vo'imrim, Kol mi sheno yitzen leto v'yoniach beroisho v'roish chamoiroi, Ichvoy Avodah Zarah, Yoniach lo esameches, V'imlav, Al Yoniach lo esameches. The Gemara raises an objection to Rish Lakish's opinion from a Braita. Rabbi Natan says, on the day in which a reduction was made from the tax in honor of idol worship, they announce and say, anyone who takes a wreath of roses and places it on his head and on the head of his donkey in honor of the object of idol worship, his tax will be reduced. And if one does not place a wreath on one's head, his tax will not be reduced. Yehudi shenimtza shama yaseh yaniach nimtza nehene v'lo yaniach nimtza mehene. What should a Jew who is present there do? If he places the wreath on his head and on the head of his donkey, he will be found to derive benefit from idol worship. And if he does not place the wreath on his head, he will be found to cause benefit to idol worship through the tax that he pays. Mikan amru hanoise v'noisin mishuk shel avodah zarah behema teaker peros kesus uchelim yirakvu maos uchlei matachos yolichem liyam hamelach ve'ezahu ikur haminasher peroseha min ha'arkuba ulimata. From here, the sages stated, one who conducts business in a market of idol worship will be forced either to benefit from or to cause benefit to idol worship. Therefore, any animal he brought there should be destroyed. Any produce, clothing, or vessels should be left to decompose. And with regard to any money or metal vessels, which would not decompose on their own, one should take them and cast them into the Dead Sea. And what constitutes destroying the animal? One cuts off the hooves of the animal from the knee and below. Katani mihas yaniach nimtza nehena lo yaniach nimtza mehena. The Gemara explains the objection to Reish Lakish's statement. In any event, the Braita teaches that it is prohibited to cause benefit to idol worship, as it states, if he places the wreath on his head, then he will be found to derive benefit from idol worship. And if he does not place the wreath on his head, he will be found to cause benefit to idol worship. How then can Reish Lakish claim that it is permitted to cause benefit to idol worship? Amar Rav Sharshi Rav Idi Kasavar Rishum ben Lakish Pligi Rabbanon Ale Rabbi Natan Ve'ana de Amri Ke Rabbanan de Pligi Ale Rabbi Yochanan Savar Lo Pligi. Rav Sharshi, son of Rav Idi, said, Rav Shum ben Lakish holds as follows: the rabbis disagree with Rabbi Natan, whose opinion is cited in the Braita, and I have spoken in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, who disagree with Rabbi Natan. The Gemara notes that Rabbi Yochanan, who rules in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Natan, holds that the rabbis do not disagree with Rabbi Natan. Rather, everyone agrees that it is prohibited to cause benefit to idol worship. The lo pligi, v'hatanya holchin le'yerid shel goyim v'lochim mehem behema avadim mushfachos vadim besados uchramim v'chotef umala be'erkaos shelahen b'pnei shehu kematzil miyadam. The Gemara asks, and is it so that they do not disagree? But isn't it taught in a Braita one may go to a fair of Gentiles, whose purpose is to honor idol worship and buy from the Gentiles animals and slaves and maidservants, as the purchase raises the items to a more sanctified state, and he may buy houses, fields, and vineyards from them due to the mitzvah to settle Eretz Israel. And one may write the necessary deeds and confirm them in their Gentile courts, although this involves an acknowledgement of their authority, because it is as though he is rescuing his property from their hands, as the court's confirmation and stamp of approval prevents the seller from denying the sale and claiming that the property still belongs to him. V'im haya kohen v'yitame b'chutz ha'aretz ladun ule'ar'er imahem kishem shemitame b'chutz ha'aretz kach mitame b'beit ha'kvaros. And if he is a priest, he may become ritually impure by going outside Eretz Israel, even though a priest is usually prohibited from leaving Eretz Israel to the impure land outside, in order to litigate with them and to contest their claims. And just as a priest may become ritually impure by going outside Eretz Israel, so too he may become ritually impure for this purpose by entering a cemetery. The Gemara interrupts its citation, Braita, to express surprise at this last ruling. Can it enter your mind to say that a priest may become impure by entering a cemetery? The halacha that a cemetery imparts ritual purity to a priest is by Torah law. How could the sages override this prohibition? Rather, the Braita is referring to an area where there is uncertainty with regard to the location of a grave or a corpse, owing to the fact that the grave had been unwittingly plowed over, and the bones may have become scattered throughout the field. Such a field imparts ritual impurity by rabbinic law. Torah, V'lisa Isha, Rabbi Yehuda, Imosai, Bizman Shein, Motzi L'mod, Aval Bizman Shemotzi L'mod, Enam Tamei. The Gemara continues that a priest may likewise become ritually impure and leave Eretz Israel in order to study Torah or in order to marry a woman. Rabbi Yehuda says, when does this allowance apply? It applies when he cannot find a place to study in Eretz Israel. When a priest can find a place to study in Eretz Israel, he may not become ritually impure by leaving the country. I didn't know that one becomes ritually impure just by merely leaving the country. Okay, anyway. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Afil Bizman Shemotze L'mod Yitam, Lefi She'en Adam Zercha L'mod Mikol. Rabbi Yossi says, even when he can find a place of study in Israel, he may leave the country and become ritually impure because a person does not merit to learn from everyone, and it is possible that the more suitable teacher for him lives outside of Eretz Israel. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Ma'asim B'Yosef HaKohen, Shelach Achar Rabbi V'Tzidon L'ilmod Torah. Rabbi Yossi says, in support of his opinion, there was an incident involving Yosef the priest, who followed his teacher to the city of Sidon, outside of Eretz Israel, to learn Torah, even though the preeminent sage of his generation, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, lived in Eretz Israel. And Rabbi Yochanan says about this, the halacha is in accordance to the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. The Gemara returns to the issue at hand. This bright apparently indicates that the rabbis do disagree with Rabbi Natan, as they hold that it is permitted to buy items from a Gentile affair and cause benefit to idol worship, whereas the ruling of Rabbi Natan is a minority opinion. The Gemara responds, Rabbi Yochanan could have said to you, actually the rabbis do not disagree with Rabbi Natan, and even according to this Braita, one is prohibited from causing benefit for idol worship. V'lo kashya, kan v'lokeach min ha'tagar, tishak li michsa mineh, kan v'lokeach mibal abayis, dilo shak li michsa mineh. Gemara elaborates, and the fact that the Braita permits buying at a Gentile fair is not difficult. Here, where Rabbi Natan prohibits buying items from a Gentile fair, he states his ruling with regard to one who buys from a merchant as a tax is taken from him for the benefit of idol worship. Whereas there, in the Braita that permits buying items at the fair, it states its ruling with regard to one who buys from a homeowner, meaning a private individual, where a tax is not taken from him. Amar Mar, the Gemara returns to discuss the Braita and cited the opinion of Rabbi Natan. The master said above, Behemah te'aker, v'hayi gadsar v'lechaim, Amar Abaye, Amar Rachmana te'et susehem te'aker. The Gemara returns to discuss the Braita that decided the opinion of Rabbi Natan. The master said above, any animal that one brought there should be destroyed. The Gemara asks, but isn't there a requirement to prevent suffering to animals? Abaye said, although there is an enjoiner against causing suffering to a living creature, it is permitted when necessary, as the merciful one states to Joshua, you shall destroy their houses. Joshua 11:6. Amar Mar, Ezehu Iko, Menasher Peosea, Mena Arkuba, Ulemata, Urebinu, Ein Makdishin, Ein Machmirin, Ein Marichin, Bisman Azeh, Veim Ikdish, Vachim Berach, Behemat Yakel. The master said above, what constitutes destroying the animal? One cuts the hooves of the animal from the knee and below. The Gemara raises a contradiction from a Braita. One may neither consecrate objects nor dedicate items for sacred use, nor evaluate an item's worth based on its appraisal. See Leviticus chapter 27, and dedicate its monetary worth to the temple treasury in the present time, when the temple no longer exists. And if one did consecrate or dedicate or evaluate items for sacred use, the presence of these items might lead to the violation of the prohibition against using consecrated property. Therefore, if one dedicated an animal, it should be destroyed. If he dedicated produce, garments, or vessels made from materials that decompose, he should store them until they decompose. Okay, top of 13b. We're continuing. Take a little break. Top of 13b. Yirkavu mois krematachois. Yoilichem liyam hamelach veziku. No anderes bifaneavu beseverel. He should store them until they decompose. And if he dedicated money or metal vessels, he should take them and cast them into the Dead Sea. And what constitutes destroying? He locks the door before it, and the animal dies on its own from hunger. According to the Braita, the disposal of the animal is carried out by starving it, not by cutting its hooves. I don't think you would die by cutting its hooves anyway. It'd just be really painful, but it wouldn't kill it. Anyway, Amar Abaye Shani Hasam Mishum Bizayon Kadashim Vinishchate Mishchat Asubahu Lidetekala. Abaye said there, in the case of a consecrated animal, the method employed is different because cutting the animal's hooves would cause the degradation of sacrificial animals. Gemara asks, but why does the Braita require this complicated method of killing the animal? Why not simply state that he should slaughter it? The Gemara answers, if you were to slaughter it, someone might come to experience a mishap through it by eating the meat and thereby misusing consecrated property. Gemara asks, why not let him render the animal a shard, a gistra, by mutilating it so that it is unfit to be eaten? Why is it necessary to kill it in such a drawn-out fashion by starving it to death? Besides, it's Sarva L'chaim, Abaye said that it is because the verse states, and you shall break down their altars. You shall not do so to the Lord your God. Deuteronomy 12, 3 and 4. It is derived from here that one may not actively destroy any sacred item. Rava said there is a different reason a consecrated animal may not be disposed of by cutting its hooves. It is because it appears as though he is inflicting a blemish on a sacrificial animal. The Gemara asks, why does Rava say that it merely appears as though he is inflicting a blemish when in actual fact he is inflicting a full-fledged blemish? The Gemara answers, this matter that one may not inflict a blemish on a sacrificial animal applies only when the temple is standing, as the animal is fit for sacrifice and he renders it unfit. By contrast, now, when the animal is not fit for sacrifice, since there is no temple, we have no problem with it by Torah law. The only problem is that it appears as though one is inflicting a blemish on a sanctified animal. The Gemara asks, but this should be considered equivalent to one who inflicts a blemish on an animal that is already blemished, which is prohibited even though that animal is not fit for sacrifice. The Gemara answers, in the case of a blemished animal when the temple is standing, it is prohibited to inflict a blemish upon it, as granted, it itself is not fit to serve as an offering, but it is fit to make use of its monetary value, meaning another animal may be purchased with the proceeds of its sale and sacrificed in its place. This is to the exclusion of the case here when there is no temple, as the animal is not fit for its monetary value and it is not fit to serve as an offering itself. Amar le ketani behemet yakel. Eved mai, Eved Yisraelo, kami bayali. Ki kami bayali, Eved goy mai. Vale mai ka mi baya lecha. Tanya hagoyim v'haroim behema daka, and in parentheses it says v'haroe. Behema daka lo malim v'lo moridin. Rabbi Yonah found Rabbi Eli, who was standing at the entrance to the city of Tyre. Rabbi Yonah said to him, the Braita cited above teaches that if one brought an animal at a pagan fair, it should be destroyed. What should be done with a slave purchased at the fair? Rabbi Yonah elaborated, I do not raise the dilemma about a Jewish slave, as it is obvious that the master cannot cause him harm. Where it is a dilemma for me is the case of a Gentile slave. What is the halacha? Rabbi Eli said to him in response, what is the reason that this is a dilemma for you? It is taught in Braita with regard to the Gentiles and shepherds of small domesticated animals. We do not raise them from a pit, but we do not actively lower them into a pit either. It may be inferred from here that one may not cause the death of a Gentile slave. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah Zarah Ketani loy kichin behem avadim mishpachos Eved Yisrael adema Eved goy. This is again a disclaimer. All these cases with the non-Jew and the Jew. I mean, this is a long time ago and different context, different historical context, and the words read here do not necessarily or do not reflect my own opinion. I'm rather reading it as a separate work called the Talmud. The work of the Talmud. It's called the Talmud, but I'm saying it's a separate work that I'm doing, or just reading the Talmud. Amar le mistavra Eved Yisraeli Eved goy namay mibayle Yazar v'namar Shimon Lakish afilo Eved goy v'fnei shemachniso taras kan pei hashchina. Rabbi Yirmiyah said to Rabbi Zarah, the second Braita cited above teaches that one may go to a pagan fair and buy from the Gentiles animals, slaves, and maidservants. Does the Braita mean that one may buy a Jewish slave, or perhaps it is teaching that one may even buy a Gentile slave? It's going to mean no one buys slaves anymore in our area. No one buys or sells slaves here today. Rabbi Zarah said to him, it stands to reason that the Braita means specifically a Jewish slave, as if it is referring to a Gentile slave. What is the reason that it is necessary for the sages to permit this purchase? When Ravin came from Eretz Israel to Babylonia, he said to Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, that Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish says it is permitted to purchase even a Gentile slave because he brings him under the wings of the divine presence by having him undergo the process of conversion when he becomes the slave of a Jew. Okay? Amar Ravashi atu behema mai machnis takas kante shchino ika ela mishum meutayu v'hachat name medimate shari. Ravashi said that with regard to the permission to buy an animal, what is there about this purchase that one can be said to bring the animal under the wings of the divine presence? Rather, the reason is permitted is because through this purchase, the Jew reduces the possessions of the Gentile. And here too, he reduces the Gentile's property by purchasing the slave. It is permitted. Okay, next. Rabbi Yaakov Zavan Sandala. Rabbi Yirmiyah Zavan Pita. Amar le chad lechavre. Yatma ben Rabach Hachi. Amar le yidach Yatma avad Rabach Hachi. V'tarvayu mibal bayit zabun. Bechol chad v'chad sabal chavrai mitagal zavan. De'amar Rabbi Abba v'red Rabbi Chia v'Rabba lo shaloi Rabbi Lokech mitagal yishakli michsa minei aval Lokech mibal habayit delo shakale minei michsa mutar. The Gemara relates Rabbi Yaakov bought sandals and Rabbi Yirmiyah bought bread at a pagan fair. One said to the other, orphan, meaning one with no guide, would your teacher act in this manner? The other likewise said to him, orphan, would your teacher act in this manner? The Gemara explains, actually both purchased these items from a homeowner, meaning a private individual, and each one thought that the other had purchased this item from a merchant. As Rabbi Abba, son of Rabbi Chia or Abba says, the sages taught that it is prohibited to buy from a Gentile at a pagan fair only in the case of one who buys from a merchant, as a tax is taken away from him and used for the benefit of idol worship. But with regard to one who buys from a homeowner when a tax is not taken from him, it is permitted to make the purchase. Amar Rabbi Abba bered Rav Chia bar Abba il male haya Rabbi Yochanan azimna basra tikashak limichsa afilu mibal habayis Havyasar ela inhu hechi zavun. Mibal habayis she'en kavua zavun. Rabbi Abba, son of Rabbi Chia bar Abba says, if Rabbi Yochanan had been present at this time and age, in a place where the tax is taken from all sales, including those conducted with private individuals, he would have prohibited buying items even from a homeowner. The Gemara asks, if so, how did these sages, Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yirmiyah, purchase items at the fair? The Gemara answers, they purchased the items from a homeowner who sells solely on a temporary basis. Okay, that's the end of the Gemara, starting a new Mishnah. Elu devarim asurim limkol goy. Itztrobelin ubenot shuach upetotarot ulivona v'tarnegol lalavan. Rabbi Yehuda אומר, מותר למכור לו תרנגול לבן בין התרנגולים, ובזמן שהוא בפני עצמו קוטע את אצבעו ומכורו לו לפי שאין מקריבים חסר לעבודה זרה. The Mishnah says these are the items that it is prohibited to sell to a Gentile at any time of the year, as they are used specifically for idol worship. And these are them. It's shubalin, beno shuach, pitotarot, frankincense, and a white rooster. Rabbi Yehuda says it is permitted to sell a white rooster to a Gentile, provided that he is sold along with other types of roosters. But when he is sold by himself, one should cut off its toe and sell him to the Gentile, because they do not sacrifice a defective animal to the object of idol worship. ושאר כל הדברים סתם מותר ושן עשו. רבי מאיר אומר, אף דקייתה בחצב ונקלב אסור למכור לגויים. And with regard to all remaining items without specification, it is permitted to sell them, but with specification, it is prohibited to sell them. Rabbi Meir says even in the case of a good palm tree, hatzav and naglav, it is permitted to sell them to the Gentiles. That completes Daf 13 of Avodah Zarah.